Hello, welcome. So in the world of COVID, we are going to be doing some gardening because a lot of us are going to be home. And a few things, in the wintertime, when I'm not growing my own stuff in my yard, I'll often get salad mixes like this in these things in the wintertime. But considering that we really all want to minimize the number of trips we have to make out into the world to get supplies, I'm going to teach you how to start growing some of your own lettuces. So I'm actually just going to reuse this as my container. What's nice about it is that when you take the lid off, poke some holes in the bottom there, and put it right on the lid, it's its own drip tray. So it's kind of nice. And I think a lot of us have these kinds of things floating around. So I wanted to make this as easy and as accessible as possible. So the first thing I want to show you is that when you're going to go grow some lettuces to kind of keep lettuce going in your house, there are two different kinds of lettuces in the world. There's something like this. This is a butter crunch head of lettuce. And there's stuff like this, which is kind of one of those loose bunching lettuces. So when you're going to be doing this kind of growing that I'm going to show you, you want to avoid the thing that makes a round head, like the iceberg kinds of lettuces or butter heads. Anything that makes a big tight head is not what you want. You want what are called the cut and come again lettuces. And what those are, they're lettuces that grow in kind of loose bunches, kind of like that, kind of like almost like your romaine types, where you can do exactly what it's called, cut and come again. You can cut the outer leaves of your lettuces when they're in that like great tender baby lettuce stage. Use those in your salads and then let it keep growing because lettuces will grow from the center. So I'm going to show you what to do. First things first, I went ahead and poked a whole bunch of holes in the bottom of this thing. Next, I'm getting some planting mix. I always go to my garden center or to my local farm store, and I'll buy planting mix in a bale. Bales are compressed, they're big kind of blocks. They look like a bale of hay, kind of, but they're in a big plastic wrapper. And that is because I use a lot of it, and those come compressed, so it's an easy way to get a lot of material at once. And because they're compressed, when you take them out and loosen them up, it's actually a lot more than it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this up, not even that far, because our lettuces don't need a lot of root space. Some plants like to put their roots down really deep. Lettuces do not. They are pretty shallow growing, which means that they're really well suited to this kind of thing. So I'm going to put this down. I'm going to just compress this a little bit, not a lot. It still should be pretty loose, but just kind of making it even. And then I'm going to shake that off. Now, before putting this in here, I did pre-moisten the mix. I took it out of its bale. I put a bunch in a bucket and wet it down because when they compress it, it's really dehydrated and it'll suck up an enormous amount of water. So go ahead and keep watering it till it's nice and moist and feels like a damp sponge in your hand. And then I'm going to pick I'll pick this one. This is a mesclun mix. So it's probably a whole bunch of different lettuces. This says it's a blend of 7 lettuces, 3 green leaf lettuce, 2 red leaf lettuce, and 2 romaine for a variety of textures and colors from light green to dark emerald, which is kind of why this is fun to do because you get to make your own lettuce mix, the kind that you would buy in a store in your house. Now, to read the back of the seed packet, I hope I'm aiming it correctly. There's all this information. One of the things it says is days to maturity. That's kind of important. It says 45 to 65. So that means that in 45 days, I will have baby lettuce. In 65 days, I'll have giant, kind of big whole heads of lettuce. In this case, I really want to make sure that I'm doing baby lettuces. So that's about 45 days, about 5 weeks. That's a long time to wait, but you know what? Let's go ahead and get started. There's no reason to stop. If I do this now, at the end of April, I'm eating salad from my front windowsill. So there are others that I have here. This one says 49 days. This is 54. This one says, let's see, 3 to 4 weeks. Nice. Um, this one's 50 days. I'm still gonna stick with the mix just because I think it'd be fun to do that. Now, other things that are on the back of this packet, information like planting depth, seed spacing, days to transplant, days to germination, and spacing after transplant. So a lot of that information is relevant if you're going to be putting your seeds into an outdoor garden, which you could do because lettuces don't mind cool weather. But in this case, I'm actually going to grow this as windowsill lettuce. I don't usually grow a lot of things that I eat on my windowsill, mostly because they really require an enormous amount of light. Lettuces don't necessarily need as much sunlight as the other things that we'll grow in the garden, like zucchinis or tomatoes. So they're going to be okay with only a half a day's worth of sun. So I'm going to pour this out. There's a whole, let me see if I can get up close there. Can you see that? Oops. There's a whole lot of different kinds of seeds there. Some are black, some are kind of white. There's some tan ones, some rounded ones, some long ones. I'm literally going to sprinkle this in. I'm not going to worry about the spacing too much, but I'm going to sprinkle it so it roughly feels like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, roughly in that zigzag pattern. So I have about maybe 20 or so plants growing. Probably more than that because when I take this, pinch it out, and then kind of go like this, I'm sure probably more than just 20 seeds fell in. But that's okay because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be harvesting this as it grows. So usually what I'll do if I'm trying to grow a row in the garden, I would get rid of the things that are growing too close together so that I give each plant enough room to become a full-size adult plant. In this case, I'm not going to worry about that too much because I'm looking to harvest baby leaves so they can grow a little closer together. So now that I've picked up the bits that I spilled, I'm going to go ahead and take just a little more of the soil. I'm going to sprinkle it on top. So there's just a thin covering of soil over what I planted. Now a lot of people will do things like they'll poke into the soil and put the seeds into the holes that they've poked. And that's fine too, but I often find that it's easy when you do that to plant the seed too deep. And that becomes problematic. If you plant the seed a little too deep, what happens is that seed, now that it's in this nice moist bed, the moisture activates it to start growing. It's a combination of moisture and temperature, and since this is going to be sitting on my windowsill right behind me there, it's going to be really warm because it's inside my house, so it's not like outside, and it's going to be getting lots of light from this window that gets tons and tons of light, and it's going to be getting moisture because it's in wet growing medium right now, and I'll water it some more as we go along. Those things tell the seed it's time to start growing. Now, if the seed is too far down in your soil, it's going to be spending a lot of its energy trying to get up to the top of that soil so that it can start photosynthesizing. There's only enough energy in that seed basically to get you that far. So if you put your seed down here, it's going to go that far and it's going to peter out. It's not going to have enough energy to get itself all the way to the top before it needs to photosynthesize to make more energy to put down more roots and make more leaves. So that's really it. This is already wet, so I'm not even going to water it too much more. I might give it a little bit more of a sprinkle. I am going to use this lid and put it on top to keep the moisture in. I'm only going to keep that on top until my plants sprout. Once they sprout, I'll take the lid off and put it underneath and use it as a drip tray, and then I'll have lettuces growing. So I hope you guys join in. I hope you guys do something like this too, because there's no better hope than planting a seed. And right now we could all use a little hope. So I hope this is good. Let me know if you have any more questions. I'm happy to answer, and I'm happy to help you learn how to garden. Be well.